What I'd like to do is turn this over to Margaret Van Land Martin at this time. She's from Chico, California, and she has some information about tonight's harmonic convergence here.
Thank you, Sherry. So, guess what, everybody? I bet you've seen it all over the headlines. Jupiter and Saturn will come to or are coming together in tonight's sky, and they are forming what appears to be a single bright star above the horizon. The event, known as the Great Conjunction, takes place on the longest night of the year, offering us a unique opportunity to view it, which we will now get to do on slides. This is also the winter solstice, which also is occurring, of course, December 21st, and it coincides this time with the peak of the Ursid meteor shower, making a spectacular end to the calendar of what happened this year up in the skies. This month's Great Conjunction will be the closest encounter of the two largest planets in the solar system since 1623. Jupiter and Saturn pass close by to each other every 20 years, but this is as close as they've gotten since 1623. They will come within a 0.1 degree of each other. They already have, which is about 1/5 of the moon's diameter, and it is visible though all throughout the world, which is another thing that's very unusual. Given the timing of this conjunction, some have likened the merging of the two giants to the Christmas star. And weather permitting, you can see it with your naked eye in the southwest shortly after sunset. Looking in that direction with a horoscope, you can tell what I do for a living, telescope, the rare event will mean both Jupiter and Saturn will appear together in your view screen. The planets will once again conjoin within 1/10 of a degree of each other in 2080, meaning that tonight's conjunction may be the last chance for many people to see this conjunction in their lifetime. Each night, planets are becoming closer and closer together, even though, of course, they are actually hundreds of millions of miles apart. It's a striking sight and something that happened in our lifetime. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the astrology that goes with the astronomy. So on today, Mercury, the planet Mercury, which deals with information, moved into Capricorn wanting structure, and it left behind Sagittarius with its lack of tact and lack of patience. And Mercury doesn't enjoy being in Sagittarius, so now that it's moving into Capricorn, we are going to have communication flowing easier. Won't that be nice for tonight, Marty? And of course, for the holidays. Also tonight, the second, and I said second, biggest astrological day of 2020 occurs. The biggest was Pluto, which is rebirth after something dies, joining Saturn, life lessons last January. That's how we kicked off 2020. 2020 was one big ouch of lessons, then having no choice but to struggle forward. And I'm sure we all got to experience that this year. Our sun stands still in the sky as it does every solstice as it prepares to jump from Sagittarius to Capricorn. However, this time we have a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in the air sign of Aquarius as well. This starts a new age of air conjunctions for approximately the next 200 years. Let your imagination go as you think what this brings in. When Jupiter and Saturn cycled in water signs, ships sailed worldwide. Explorations occurred during fire signs, and buildings arose during earth signs. Air is the internet and thinking, fresh ideas, communication, live and let live life philosophy. Also, this Saturn-Jupiter conjunction is mimicking the Christmas star. The reason for this great conjunction being so special is because it was like the one from 7 years before the Common Era. That would be 7 years before BCE. When this occurred, a new prophet, Jesus, was born. I do not know if we need a new prophet, but we will certainly get new ways of thinking, inventions, and humanitarian efforts. This conjunction does tremendously empower for the next 20 years. Jupiter offers fresh ideas and Saturn implements them. These two planets are our great teachers. These two planets progress our communities forward. The fact that they are connecting their partnership this cycle by degree and declination means that they will be creating a tight partnership this cycle for groundbreaking changes. If you want to see what area of your life you will have the most shift in, you need to look to see where Aquarius is in your chart. And if that's something that interests you, I do astrology readings, and we can determine which house in your chart you will experience the shift. With all the changes we have experienced, it will be easy to be overwhelmed and respond in ways we are not proud of. Ask for forgiveness as quickly as possible. Look for family and friends who act out lower energies too and give them space. Please do not go down these negative pathways in your personal relationships. Now is a great time for meditation and breathing practices and doing things that bring you joy. And the slide on the screen is in the area of Butte County, and that is 3 nights ago. And you can see Jupiter in the foreground and Saturn in the background. And it is exactly the two planets almost conjoined in the sky. And it was such a pretty picture that I thank you, Susan, for being able to get that on for everyone to get to see.
Where's Butte County?
Ooh, of course, Northern California, very Northern California, almost to the Oregon border. So thank you. I love dowsing and I love astrology, and I appreciate that Sherry asked me to join and that Susan helped so much with getting the great slideshow up to show what the planets are doing.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Margaret is a great psychic and gives wonderful classes. Her information is on the slide that you see, so you can contact her if you'd like. She does give talks at the West Coast Conference. So I want to thank you very much, Margaret.
You're welcome. I also get to be at the Flagstaff, a new conference there. I'm very excited. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and enjoy dowsing and enjoy the age of Aquarius.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, Marty, we're so glad to have you this evening on our first actual video teleconference.
Okay.
Hit the next slide so we can then start your presentation. Okay.
What I have to say about this day is that it was my grandmother's birthday. So it was always a very special day for everyone in my family. So that's wonderful. What I wanted to talk about what dowsing is, and dowsing is actually probably the greatest gift you could give anybody. It's something my grandfather taught me when I was 5 years old, and I've been dowsing ever since. But it's finding answers that there's no other place to find them. And how it works is that we all have an auric field, a waveform. And there's 7 layers to the waveform. The first layer is about an inch off your body. And, you know, when you're in a dark space and somebody sees you, they might see a little glow around you about an inch out. That's your intimate space. And that's the densest of your auric field. And the aura comes in through your chakra system. I don't know what all this noise is in the background, but I hope it's not recording. Anyway, that's the first layer. The second layer is about fingertips when you put your hands out. And that's family. The third layer is nation. It goes as far as the east coast of the Mississippi River, about 1,000 miles more in all directions, like a big sphere. That's nation. The fourth layer out is the earth and the moon. So you are already on the moon when you are putting yourself or your consciousness into the fourth layer of your aura. So everybody has this. The fifth layer is the solar system. The sixth layer is all you can see, the tiniest speck of light. And the seventh layer is all there is. So why dowsing works is because whatever you're dowsing for, you are already there. And when you go to douse, you're literally going inside and going out through the chakra system into who you are to get the answers to your questions. So it's important that you ask, is it in the highest good I douse now? Because if you're too tired, or if you're not feeling well, or for whatever reason, if you're confused of any kind, then you probably hadn't ought to be dowsing. You best wait, go get a cup of coffee or hang out or something, and then come back at it later. So you want to be in tip-top shape when you start to douse, just so that you can be accurate. What is that? Is there a question? So you ask if it's all right to douse now. And why you're dowsing is because you want to know the truth. It's very, very important that you get the truth. And the other thing you do when you douse is you get in touch with your own power. It's not force, it's not manipulation. It's how powerful you are as all there is in the universe. So when the great teachers would say, you and I are one, you and I are God, goddess, all there is. We are all there is on the skinny branches. Most of us don't want to play that far out because it's pretty scary. And we don't want to take responsibility for our reaching that far. But we actually do reach that far. And it's time, given what our world is going through right now, it's time that we take on that responsibility to be able to reach that far. Now, there's a lot of tools you can use in dowsing. Some people use their body. You know, when they lean forward, it's a yes. When they're pushed back, it's a no. I teach with L rods, as you can see in this picture. I use L rods a lot because they're easy to make and they're easy for people to see them actually moving and not feel like they've moved them purposefully or consciously. Your higher self is connected through the chakra system. It's not connected to your mental ability. So your ego mind, conscious mind, is not part of all of that. And your conscious mind is not capable of dowsing. So whenever you have an agenda or whenever you have a desire for a particular outcome, don't douse it. Have somebody else douse for you. It's really important that they do that because your ego mind cannot douse. If you have a hang up about money, you can't douse for money. You can douse for anything. But if your ego gets in the way, it's not going to be accurate and you'll make great mistakes. So what I suggest you do, and I'm assuming that most of you who are on this call um, actually have had some experience in dowsing. And if you haven't, then please, please look at all the chapters on the, and find another dowser and work with them if you can, because it's a skill that is so valuable. It's for everything. You douse for everything. There's nothing you can't douse for, except if you're invading someone's privacy. So you want to keep the integrity, you want to keep the honesty. Um, you want to feel good about yourself when you douse. You don't want to feel like you've cheated. So I suggest that the chakra that you use for dowsing is the heart chakra. And that's another reason I like using the L rods, because they are in the position of the heart, where the mental pendulum is usually up. You hold it up closer to your eyes, so that's more of a mental chakra area. And the Y rod you hold lower, which is sort of the gut area. But I always find it easier, and I don't know, I just like using the heart chakra. Now, when I'm dowsing, I'm actually connecting with a life force, and everything in my world is alive and intelligent. Everything is worthy of your respect, of your love. Actually, that's what it's worthy of. So let's look at Emoto's work with water. I don't know how many of you have seen his water crystals or read the books that he's put out, but what he discovered is, as he began to freeze water, if it was holy water, if it was blessed water, it had a beautiful mandala, gorgeous crystals. Next slides, please. Let's just go through these. And this is showing before and after. And the before is water that is polluted, and then he blessed it. And the blessing of the water lost its pollution, which means you can make an effect on water. Every one of you can do that. And how it's done is through your love. Let the water know that it is loved, it's respected, and it will show its beautiful crystalline form. The next one, please. Water is alive and intelligent. It even knows how to speak Japanese. I don't know how to speak Japanese, but it also understands our English. It understands French. So anyone can speak to water and have a result and have a change, a shift. So when I'm dowsing for water wells, yeah, this is good. We'll hold this for a moment. When I'm dowsing for a water well, the one thing to remember is you always ask permission. You ask the water if it's willing to come to the surface to serve the project that's about to be used for. If it isn't, it won't be there. When they drill, you may find exactly where it is, exactly the depth. But if it's not willing and not able, it will move and you'll get a dry hole every time. I've come across a number of wells that were dry holes where the water couldn't share anymore. It had a commitment to, say, a farm down the way. And so all of its water was being used. It couldn't give you any because it already made a promise to somebody else. So you need to ask. Everything is alive and intelligent. Water is alive and intelligent. It makes choices just like you and I do. It makes commitments just like you and I do. Well, what I'm showing you here is a heart. And this heart came from working, dowsing a few weeks back. I was dowsing on some land up in northern part of North Carolina. And I found a well. The people weren't there. They just told me where to go. And I marked everything out and put logs down beside the path so they could find where I designated the well to be. And as I was walking off the mountain, it was quite a hike up. I just got a sense that I needed to thank the spirit of place, because all of the landscape is protected by higher beings. And so I thank the elementals and I thank the spirit of place. And I just gave gratitude for the water that was going to serve the family that we're about to build up on the top of that mountain. And as I went to step away, I stepped down on something hard. I almost tripped. And under my feet were leaves. So I brushed the leaves away. And under the leaves was this heart. So it was a gift from the heart, from the land, for my having been there. So when you go and you give your love to a place and you talk to the water and you talk to the land like they're your best friends, they will reward you, or they will speak back to you. And this is one way that it's done. They give you a heart. So next one, please. Okay. There was a place I got a chance to go with the Fortean Society. That's a group of scientists and curious people who study ancient crazy stuff. Well, we went to Chichen Itza, and and I knew when I went there that I had to see the water. I didn't know what it was about, but I knew I had to go to the water. And it was about a quarter of a mile from the main temple area. It was a long, long path that led to this, like a sinkhole. It was ledges and caves. It just dropped out, and the bottom was water. When I saw the water, it was awful. It was dirty. It was just horrible. And I'd heard that there was a, a kind of a platform where the the Mayans and the Aztec used to sacrifice people. They would push them off that and they were drowned. So I felt really bad for the water. So I apologized to the water for all the way it had been treated. It was just, my heart just went out to the water. And I turned and I looked, and across that sinkhole was a cliff, and on the cliff face, the sun came out and hit it in just a certain way. And there was the jaguar. And so I took a picture of it. But a jaguar is a very important creature in the Aztec civilization. Next, please. So as I was turning and walking away from that area, I looked down at my foot, and there again was a Mayan head. And the Mayan head was exactly what I had seen on a lot of the carvings on the temples in that whole Mayan area. So that again was a thank you from the spirit of place, from the water, from the whole temple of the Chichen Itza, for my prayer and my desire for the water to be healed. So you do. I mean, I didn't understand it then as much as I'm beginning to. But each one of you who dows, and each one of you where you go, if you focus your attention with love, it's the most powerful thing you've got. And that love gets responded to. And this is just one example of a response. Okay, next one, please. Okay, I got a chance. You know, once you do a lot of dowsing and workshops and stuff, I was doing a labyrinth workshop, and the gal on the left, Sherry, and she is a professor at the University of Vermont, and she and a friend of hers decided they needed to go to England, and they got a grant to go to England and douse out ancient sacred sites. And so they decided I should go with them. And they took me back to Cornwall, England, which is one of my most favorite places on the planet. And the people that she's with is John and Jill Moss. And John was the director of the British Society of Dowsers for 9 years. And he and Jill give dowsing workshops in England, and they're absolutely wonderful. And not only that, they're also part of a community that cleans up the ancient sacred sites, because people go and they leave stuff and they kind of make a mess. So John and a bunch of other friends and Jill go and they clean up the ancient sites so they stay pristine and with high integrity. So next slide, please. This is years and years and years ago, probably 25 or 30 years ago. I had given a workshop in England, and when Sherry and I knocked on John and Jill's door, John came to the door and he didn't know I was going to be there. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't remember him. So he said, "Hey, Marty, what in the world are you doing here? I had no idea you were coming." And I looked at him and thought, "How do you know who I am?" And he said, 20 years ago, you gave a workshop in England and I went to it. We went to it. And so they remembered me from that. But this is one of the places I went to. It's called Zenner Coit. It's a little town, Zenner, south of, on the way to Land's End at the very tip of England. And this is an ancient quoit, and I spent a lot of time here. I actually wanted to buy a building and live just maybe, less than a quarter of a mile away from here. It was just so beautiful. I never did get to do that, but to come back here with Sherry and Susan, which was her friend, was a treasure. And we doused the land, we doused what it was used for. And what I found out years and years ago was that each one of these quoit or stone megaliths was on the energy grid of the planet. It was on the energy grid. But every single one of them has a problem now, except for one. One is called Chun. Chun is the only one that's still intact. All the others have the capstone knocked down, or the back of the 4/4 stones that hold it up is missing. So they no longer work. They no longer work. Years ago, I got on the one at Chun, and it was only like about 4 or 5 feet high off the ground, so I could pull myself up. And when I got up on the top of it, I was facing the English Channel, and I just lay on the top with my elbows down, and my body became parallel to the ground, and I was facing the English Channel. I was hovering, and I went, whoa, and I crashed down again. And then I just lay there for a while, and all of a sudden my body raised up again, and I was parallel to the ground, and the rock was at an angle like this one is. And finally, I doused. I turned sideways, so I was facing, instead of Brittany, I was facing the Atlantic Ocean. And every hair on my body stood straight up, and I got real cold, so I jumped off it, and I got on the ground, and I doused, is it in the highest good I get on these things? And I got a no. So I've never gotten on another one. But this is one that we came and discovered. It's called Trevithy quote. And one of the things that happened while we were there, because we doused it, they still had a lot of energy. But one of the things was a fellow was walking his dog in the field.
If you have a couple extra pain pills.
No, I don't have any. But anyway, we were walking, and after he left with his dog, he mentioned that the Historic Commission was going to come and look to see if they could find another sacred site on this land. And so we doused, and we found, wasn't marked, but in the field beyond this was an ancient labyrinth. So we walked it. We walked it as if it were there. And that was incredibly powerful. So douse everything, douse ancient sacred sites, douse contemporary sites. Next, please. Susan Collins. Yeah, okay. These are the two that I went to England with. And we went to, this is called Rocky Valley, and it's where King Arthur was born and where King Arthur was trained by Merlin. And there are two labyrinths on the wall on this ancient place. And behind is a stone structure, and they called it the old mill. But I think we both, all three of us got that it was way, way earlier than that. And it had been a mystery school. And women were very powerful in that mystery school at the time. So anyway, there they are, running their fingers through the labyrinths. Now, if we get one more slide, it's closer up so you can see the labyrinths. Yeah, here we go. Now, with the other picture, you can see how close they are to the ground. But when I first came to these years and years and years ago, more than 20 years ago, I ran my fingers through them. And when I ran my fingers through the one on the left, it was in December because it was a break from my teaching. And it was cold, rainy, and weird, but I ran my fingers through, and all of a sudden, I was totally earthbound. I could smell the brook behind me. I could hear everything was heightened. Every sense was heightened, and I was totally grounded. And I ran through it and came my finger back out, and I thought, wow, that's pretty powerful. So I went over to the one on the right, and I ran my fingers through that one. It's more circular. And when I did, everything around me disappeared. I saw white light, and I heard the music of the spheres. So when I came back out of that one, I leaned back against the stone building behind me, and I thought, if I understood these two things, there's nothing else I need to know. And as an artist, and not much was written on anything back in those days. So when I got back to America, I started building labyrinths because for me to understand it, I have to be able to make one. So next, please. Yeah, this is just a diagram of the labyrinth itself, and I've put on it the different chakras. So as you go in, and you always have a sequencing. It's 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 4, 7, 6, 5, and then you enter. So you zigzag back and forth, and as you're moving from the outside in and out again, you're readjusting your own energy system because these labyrinths were on a water dome, which is incredibly powerful. Earth energy comes spiraling up, and the water stops, but the energy keeps going, and it brings cosmic energy down. And when that happens, it brings out in like concentric circles. And not only that, there's also energy lines that come off it, which forms the earth grid. So when you're in a labyrinth that's geometrically placed on one of these energy points, then you are connected to the earth grid, and you can be anywhere on the earth. Just because you are anyway, your aura is everywhere and everything, so you can be anywhere. But this is what the labyrinth looks like in terms of its form. Next, please. I had an opportunity to go to see John of God in Brazil, and I stayed at a little place called Luz Divina, and she had a labyrinth that no one would walk, and she also wanted me to douse her well. So I got to douse her well, and we reworked the labyrinth so that it was done properly. And the energy from this labyrinth went straight down the street and through John of God's healing center. So whenever you walked the labyrinth, you were bringing energy to the healing process. And as you walked it, it came both ways. So you were being healed as well. So this was a very, very powerful little bitty labyrinth. And because of this and the water wells that I did for them, I got to be there for 2 weeks for free, basically. So that made it possible for me to be in Brazil. So next, please. What's happening? Can we hit the, oh, here we go. This is one in South Africa. Dr. Grobler lives in a place called Dunkerhoek Valley in South Africa, just south of Johannesburg. And it's his grandfather actually was teamed up with another man, and they created the Kruger National Forest. So I built this labyrinth for Dr. Grobler, and we all dowsed it out. We had a workshop, we dowsed it out, and the black people and white people all worked together on building this. So it was a beautiful coming together. They became more equal in that whole process. Everybody learned to love and respect one another in a way I think they probably never would have otherwise. And not only that, when I was there, I got to stay an extra week, and we went through the Kruger National Forest, and I got to see all the animals I'd ever seen in books. They were all alive and running around, and it was just awesome. So that was just a magnificent trip. But that's South Africa. Amazing, amazing place. Next, please. And this is back home in Black Mountain, North Carolina. This was a temporary labyrinth, actually, and as part of an art project. So I taught people about labyrinths, and I had a little book there to teach them all about it. And it was fun. It was walked and walked and walked, and often a lot of the ducks would come and walk it. So that was kind of fun to watch. But anyway, labyrinths allow people to get in touch with the earth itself, and sacred sites can be built just with your love. So when you douse, every inch is doused on these labyrinths. We usually do it in a group. This one I did by myself, but I do workshops, and everybody douses everything. So we know exactly where it's supposed to be. The earth determines the size of the labyrinth, and also whether it's a 7 circuit or an 11 circuit. I've only done 3 11 circuits on the ground. They have to be done where they can be protected. They're really, really sacred, like the ones in Chartres Cathedral. Anyway, next, please. This is another way of working with the energy of the earth. It's called an earth circle. And what it is, it's a private, secret place that you douse out for you to go to connect to heaven and earth. You don't need a big labyrinth. You just need a place that's yours. Now, I did this in North Carolina. I have one that was up on Dan Winter's farm up in, where was he? In upstate New York. I had a very special spot, and I marked it with sticks. And it was in the woods, so no one would ever find it. And this one looks like it's just a bunch of rocks on the beach, but it's on a stream. So it's a very private place, and you know where to go. And when you need to be in that kind of connection, say you're in the city or you can't get outdoors or it's too cold, you can put yourself there. Just sit yourself back down. You can call in the high beings. You can call in your spirit guides. You can connect to Mother Earth. You can connect to all the elementals. It's a safe, loving space. It's your earth circle, which connects you to the consciousness of life. So I suggest that one of the projects you take on when you start to douse for fun is that you actually do that. You actually make yourself an earth circle. Okay, next. Yeah, let's go the other way. Keep going, please. Yeah, this is another sacred site. This is called the deer tree. Oh, please go back. Yeah, the deer tree is on, yeah, it's in North Carolina, and it's a sacred site. It was created by the Native Americans, and the deer is facing behind me. There's a spring, and the tree is shaped such that as it's bent over, it forms a deer head, and the antlers are the rest of the tree as it grows up. There's one other one down a trail behind me, and this isn't very far from the Appalachian Trail, actually. So it's just a Native American way of honoring the earth and letting people know where the sacred springs are. You don't find very many of these deer trees, so if you ever get a chance to go to one, it's pretty powerful. So next. Okay, this is another example of how you use dowsing. Because you're dowsing from your heart, what you're doing is you're reaching out to all living creatures, and everything is alive and intelligent. And some of my friends that come is a lazy squirrel. I mean, I've never seen a squirrel other than this one that just lies down to eat. It's so funny and so wonderful. Um, and I love them. I put seeds out every morning and they come and they eat. Sometimes I have up to 20 squirrels on my deck. But there's my lazy friend. Next. These are folks that come to visit me in my mountain retreat here in North Carolina. This is Mama Coon, and you can tell who she is because she has a nick in her ear. Well, I fed her for a number of months. I'd give her peanut butter sandwiches, and she got so that she'd come right up to me and I could pat her and I'd just feed her. And I fed her because I don't usually feed raccoons because they're a nuisance and they're not very honoring of my space. But I knew she was a mama and she had babies, and I wanted to make sure she had enough to eat. So you can see the next slide. It's a little obscure, but this was toward the end of the summer, early fall. She brought her babies with her. She had 4 of them. And there's a little tiny one. If you look just past your face, see a little tiny one down there. And I fed them all peanut butter sandwiches and I patted the mom and she took them, she and the babes left and I never saw them again until just 3 days ago. Mama came back by herself and I got to give her another sandwich. So I think she's going to be here and maybe have a new litter of kits this spring. So we'll see what happens with Mama. Okay, next. Now, North Carolina has a lot of black bears. The first day that I came to North Carolina, um, I moved into this funny house and nothing was quite working. And the door, which is a double door that goes out onto the deck, wouldn't lock and it wouldn't stay shut. So this bear came up and put his paws on the door and pushed. And I was on the inside and I pushed back. And I just said to the bear, I shook my head, no. And I pointed to myself, said, this is my home. And I pointed to the bear and I said, you go that way. And I pointed off the deck. He pushed again. I pushed back, did the same thing 3 or 4 times. And finally, the bear just kind of dropped its paws to its side, shrugged its shoulders, and turned and walked off my deck. But every year I get numerous bears that come up. And they're not aggressive. They're really quite wonderful, and they come after the bird seed. Actually, is what they're after. But I think they're absolutely gorgeous. So next friend that comes to visit. Now, you guys may not think this is a very good friend, but it's a copperhead. Now, when I first moved here, I was working in the garden, which is a terraced rocky area that had been tended for years. And I was moving the rocks around, making them steady and and these two snakes like this came and they watched me and they kind of settled in. And I've never seen a copperhead. I'm from New Hampshire. So I said, "Oh, goody, garden snakes. Thank you for coming. I really, really need garden snakes." So I'm sitting there next to him, not 2 feet away, playing in the dirt and rearranging stones. And the carpenter who was working on my studio came by and I said, "Gee, Savannah Bob, you got to look and come see my new garden snakes." Well, he looked at him and said, "Ooh, Marty, those are copperheads." And he backed off like, "Ooh, get away from here." So I sat down next to them again and I said, I said, "I have to renege on my invitation to have you stay in my garden because I found out that you're poisonous and people are afraid of you. And I don't want anybody to get hurt. I don't want you to bite anybody. I don't want anybody to hurt you. So you can't stay in my garden. You have to find another home." So I sat there with them for about 3 or 4 minutes and they went away and they've never come back unless this was one of them. And that was like 15 years ago. This was last summer. This snake came and sat right along my front door. So every time I left the house, I had to step over it. Usually it was strung out. Every now and then it was curled up. But every morning when I saw it and was going to step over it, I'd tell it how beautiful it was and thank it for guarding my house. And I just step over it and go on my way. It never bothered anybody. I even had some friends come and stay. And of course, they weren't too sure about this copperhead, but I told them what to do. And as we went to leave, we all said hello to it, told it was beautiful, and thanked it for being there. And they simply stepped over it, and it never hurt anybody. And it never used the little tongue thing that snakes do, like breathing with their tongue. And eventually, it was about 3 weeks, it went away, and I haven't seen it since. So I don't know if it'll come back next year or not. But anyway, when you're a dowser and you come from your heart and you treat everything with total respect and love, then you can have any kind of friend you want, be it a snake or a bear or a raccoon or people. You get to talk to the elementals. You get to be in sacred land. These mountains in North Carolina are as powerful, if not more so, than Sedona. So it's just, I invite you to become dowsers if you're not already. And if you already are a dowser, I invite you to be as powerful as you can be, not to hold back. Learn how to douse water. We need water desperately. I mean, there's only two of us, Lee Barnes and I, that douse water in this area. And we're both so busy we can hardly keep up with it. No one else will douse water. There's a lot of money riding on what your rods tell you, but they need it and it needs to be done. So don't doubt your dowsing. Come at it knowing that you are that powerful, that you are all there is, that you expend out to everything. So that's that's my lecture part. But any questions, I'd be glad to see if I can't answer them.
Marty, when you douse for water,
Uh-huh.
what is your process? Like step by step, what do you do from the
Well,
time you get the call?
yeah. Well, first of all, when someone calls me, I douse, is there water? on their land willing to come to the surface? And am I the one to find it? If I get a yes for those two questions, then I agree to go. And then I charge them for a well. I only charge 200 for spotting a well, and plus a little for transportation. But when I get there, if the people are there, I show them how to dowse. I give them my yes, no answers. I talk about dowsing a bit. And then I ask the rods to point in the direction we must go for the most appropriate well to for this land. You know, which vein on this land is willing to come to the surface. So the rods point and we all just walk in that direction. And when I get to the point, I get my yes response. Some people get X marks a spot. My yes is open, so I get the rods open up when I get to the point. And then I use my foot to drag and point to the exact spot. And I come at it from all the different directions so that I know exactly where the drill bit has to go. And then I ask the water if it's willing and able to come to the surface. If I get a yes, then I ask, how many gallons are you willing to share? Because it may have 50 gallons a minute in the stream underground, but it can only give you 20 because somebody else, maybe 30, 40 miles away, is using some of it. So anyway, it tells me how much it's willing to give. And so we write all that down. And then I douse how deep from where I'm standing, where my feet are, to the surface of the water. And I count off. I ask, are you more than 100 feet, more than 200? And if I get more than 400, it says no, then I know it's somewhere over 300. So I count 300, 10, 20, 30, 40. And whenever I get my yes, I can refine it to, 342 feet or whatever. But anyway, then we mark it and we write all that down on the flags. I use surveyor's flags, and we write on them the gallons per minute and the footage, how deep. And then, that's it. That's for the water wells. And then the other thing I do with the customer is I ask that they follow what Emoto taught me, and that is on the head, the wellhead where it sticks out of the ground, write with sticky tape, I love you, thank you, anything like that, to let it know that you appreciate that it's sharing part of its flow and that it's giving you life, because without water, there's no life. And it will even taste better. It's so good. So, yeah, that's how I do it.
Great. I want to announce if anybody has a question to please post it in the chat. So that way we will read your question to Marty.
Mhm. I did a project. You never know what you're going to run into. I did a project up in Vermont, and this fellow asked me to come and douse for him because he needed water for his farm. And it was like the side of the hill. It was absolutely beautiful land. And so I went and I started dowsing, and I found a water vein, and I asked if it was willing to come to the surface to serve the projects that this man had in mind. And I got a no. And I thought, oh, that's odd. And so I went further. I found another vein, and I kept finding veins that said no. So I went back and I said to the guy, what are you going to use this water for? He said, oh, I need it for my farm. And I said, no, you don't. What are you going to use the water for? You're not telling me the truth. And he said, well, how do you know I'm not telling you the truth? I said, you're lying to me. And he said, well, so what? And I said, well, the water's not willing to come to the surface. I said, you're not going to get any water. He said, well, I've got a development happening here. And I said, well, it's not going to work. So you better sell the land and go away, because whoever drills for this water, they're going to get dry holes, and you're not going to have any water for your development. because the water's not willing to come to the surface. And he looked at me and I said, sorry, I don't work for people who lie to me. And I turned and walked away and I went home. I mean, you got to keep the integrity in. You got to hold what you know is right and tell the truth when when you can. So anyway, that's what I did with that guy. I
I
don't I
love,
haven't had that problem again, but who knows? Yeah.
I do have a question. This is Jeanette again. And
Yeah.
if you can tell me how you get your mindset when you go onto the property and what you do to prepare yourself or before you visit the property, if you need a quiet space or if you look at the land, bless the land before you get there.
Well, usually I drive. I mean, usually it's quite a ways from where I live, so I've, I'm I'm kind of getting ready in the driving there. I
Mhm.
don't think of it that way, but it is calming to drive through these mountains on the back roads, and I'm telling you, they're wild back roads. But I don't have a methodology. I hold that when I pick up the rods, I'm ready. The moment I get the rods in my hands and I just stand there for a moment, I'm ready. I don't have to balance my chakras. I don't have to, whatever you say you have to do that. And I just pick up a tool and I'm ready to douse. But then I've been dowsing since I was 5 years old. So it's like a natural thing. And I automatically go in to that dowsing space the minute I pick up a tool. So that's how I do it. If you need to be quiet, if you need to kind of center yourself, then do that. If you have any kind of feel like you're being tested or your ego gets involved in any way, just step back and do something else for a moment, just to get your ego out of the way. You can feel it. You can feel when your ego's trying to get a specific answer or when you're nervous or something like that. The only time I've ever had a problem when I went to douse a well was when there was construction and machinery and noise and people, and yeah, it was just crazy. And I tried to douse with all that going on, and it wasn't accurate. I didn't, it didn't come out. So I've never done that. If ever there's something that's that distracting, I just tell them I'll come back later.
Marty,
Oh,
there's a question.
yeah.
I have doused several labyrinths and found water domes in all of them. Does the labyrinth attract water?
Yes.
And then someone's asking, do you ever douse from maps?
Yes. Yeah. Water. The labyrinth is empowered, or the earth empowers the labyrinth by bringing water to it. When I was at the Dowsers Convention and Terry Ross was the speaker, somebody raised their hand and said that they put in the labyrinth and their well went dry. And he says, you got to talk to Marty about that. So I just stood up and I said, did you douse for the most appropriate place for the labyrinth? And she said, no, I put it where I wanted it. And I said, well, the earth, in order to power the labyrinth, the earth needs underground water. And she'll take water from the closest area unless you ask her where to put it. And if you ask her, she won't take the water from your well because she knows you need it. But sacred work is more important to the earth than your secular work. So you better douse and ask the most appropriate place for the labyrinth. Otherwise, she's going to take water from the closest bit that she can get it. So yes. Now, I don't look for water domes anymore. Often I find them and I'm told to put a labyrinth there, but the earth will bring the water. So wherever she says that the labyrinth should be, that's where we put it. And wherever the entrance is, I always douse the entrance to the center and the entrance to the labyrinth because they're not north, south, east, west, because north, south, east, west is changing. It's not the way it used to be. So we ask the earth the most appropriate entrance to the labyrinth. and then you mark that. And then you start, whenever you build a labyrinth, you start from the center. So you douse the center goal area, and then you douse out each ring, all the way out until you get your 7 rings. And then, or you can do the entrance before that, or you can do the 7 rings and then find the entrance and find the entrance to the center. And then you do the mechanical part, which is, making the lines so that you can walk them. But yeah, that's how I do labyrinths. And if the earth says you should put it there, you put it there.
There's
Yeah.
another question, Marty.
Yep.
What energy besides God do you think the awareness of water comes to you on? I don't know if that is clear, but is the energy magnetic or intuitive or telepathic or something else? Does the
Well,
water speak to you, or the diva of the water, or God, or something else?
the water is alive and intelligent. So it's the intelligence of the water that's speaking to your intelligence. Now, there are elementals that work with the water, like the Andime. And I've only seen Andime once. With all the water work I've done, I was up in Maine and sitting next to a stream, and I saw the Andime. They're like giant polywogs. They're gorgeous. But normally it's just the water itself that's speaking to you. You can talk to anything. If you douse and you douse from your heart, everything is alive and intelligent. I mean, I brought a bunch of people that I was teaching dowsing to up in Bradford, New Hampshire, and there were about 5 or 6 of us. And so I took them to an old growth forest. After I taught them the dowsing system, I took them to an old growth forest, which was in the town, and told them to go ask questions of one of the ancient trees. And they all doused which tree wanted to talk to them. So they would follow their rods, come to the tree, and sit next to the tree. Well, I decided I didn't want to hang out and mess with them. They were doing their thing. So I went and leaned up against and sat down with another old growth tree. And all of a sudden I heard it say, "Thank you for bringing your friends. We love it when people come." And so I was shocked because I'd never heard a tree before. And so we just started a conversation. And I said, "Well, in about 3 weeks, I'm going to be talking at a Dowsers convention in North Carolina. And there's an old growth forest they want me to visit." And he got real quiet and he said, "Oh, say hello to Robin when you get there." And I said, "Robin? Who's Robin?" "Oh, Robin's a friend of mine." I said, "Oh, well, how will I know?" He said, "Oh, you can't miss Robin. You'll know immediately when you see Robin." And I said, "Well, okay, who shall I say says hello?" And he gave me a name that sounded Greek or something. And I looked I looked up at the limbs and I said, "I can't even pronounce that. Never mind remember it." And he said, "Oh, just call me Stan. She'll know who I am." And I said, "Okay." So 3 weeks later, I'm walking into this old growth forest with other dowsers. And I said, "Oh, look up there." And there was a tree that was so enormous right at the bend in the trail. And I said, go ask that tree if it's got a name." And they looked at me like I was a little flaky, And I said, "No, just go see if it's got a name." So I stayed there and they walked off by themselves and they got up to the, and then finally I joined them and they were all standing around this enormous tree. And I said to them, "Does this tree have a name?" And they said in unison, "Robin." And I looked up into the branches and I said, "Hello, Robin. Stan says hello." And it was a tulip poplar tree and it dropped a blossom at my feet. So everything is alive and intelligent, and you can talk to anything. So there you go.
Another
Any,
question?
yeah.
Another question. How does one know if you have identified or found a water dome? And then someone else is asking, what is a water dome?
Oh,
And then
good.
somebody else said, I love that story that you just told.
Oh, yeah. It's you can talk to everything. Oh, a water dome is the way that actually it's how mountains are formed. The water in deep in the earth is chemistry and it's heated and it combines together H2O, right? And it pushes upward. It's under pressure. And as it comes upward out of the center of the earth, it's coming up and it hits the crust and it pushes upward. There's a lot of pressure in those things. And that's what actually forms your mountains and hills. If you go in Vermont, you'll see fields with these funny little hills in them. Well, those are water domes. But anyway, the water can't keep coming up. It hits the crust. And so what it does is the water has to go somewhere. So it goes off different levels down that column of water. It will come off in little streams. Some of them become springs where they reach the surface of the earth, and others just stay way down underground. But anyway, that's a water dome. And as the water comes up, it stopped, but the pressure spirals and that energy keeps spiraling upward. And it actually it attracts cosmic energy that spirals downward. So you've got a double helix, and that's those what you call power points or sacred sites are on them. All the stone circles in England are on them. All the quoits and the dolmens are on them, and that actually forms the Earth grid, because where the heaven energy and the Earth energy meet, they spiral on. They run off in straight lines, and the water lines run off in odd numbers. Three, 1, 3, 5, 4. No 4, no 2, all odd numbers. So whenever you find a water dome, you never ever cut into the top of it, because that breaks the pressure and all the veins go dry. So you always go off on one of the veins off to the side if you're going to drill for water. But if you're going to use it, it's great for meditation. I've seen houses built on them, so the energy in the house is just outrageous. Um, and it's a sacred space. So you're connected to heaven and earth when you're on one of those places.
Another question, have you written any books, and could that water dome create an aquifer?
Yeah, I'm sure it could. I'm sure it could. Probably many water domes contribute to an aquifer, because aquifers have a great deal of water in them. So there could be a number of streams from those different domes coming up that form the aquifer. Yeah, yeah.
And then have you written any books?
Yeah, Ladies' Notes on Dowsing, which is my basic how to do it little paperback book. I'm in the process of trying to write a book about my experiences and everything. When I met the folks in England, John and Jill. Jill is an editor of the Penwith Press, and she's been after me to write a book so she can publish it. So I've been attempting, but I'm not very good at organizing, so it's been a struggle. But anyway, there'll be a book coming out eventually. Yeah.
Okay. And then someone else asked, where is the best place to buy dowsing rods? Can you make them?
I make them. I make them all the time. And when I do a dowsing workshop or a labyrinth workshop, I teach people how. One of the things that's real easy to do is to take a metal coat hanger and cut it so that you have two angles, so you got your L rod and you just bend it so it's got a 90-degree angle. And then what I use is you can use a straw, but straws, plastic straws break easy. What I would suggest you take is an old ballpoint pen. When the ink is gone, take it apart and use the handle to make the handle of the L rods. And that works real easy. And in fact, you've got a couple of videos somewhere on this on this talk that people can connect onto, and that I show people how to make them. So, because you can't see me, and you know, I'm kind of at a disadvantage. I can't show you, but in those little videos, Monkey C is the group that had me do some videos on dowsing, and in that there's a section on where I show you how to build them. But just coat hangers cut at whatever length you want. You know, there's no special length. I make all my dowsing rods that I make for people, because when I give workshops, I have to provide them. I make them the right length so they fit in my pocketbook. So it's real scientific. It's really sacred geometry. But anyway, yeah, that's how you make them. And a pendulum will work just as well as rods do. It's just, you know, you use your hand to point, and when you get your yes response, with all the tools you have, every tool that you pick up, you ask your higher self, please show me my yes response. Whatever way they turn, my L rods open up for my yes, and the pendulum swings front to back, like nodding my head yes, that's my yes. Then I ask, please show me my no. And on the pendulum, it goes side to side, like shaking my head no. And the rods actually cross for my no. Yours may be totally different. It doesn't matter what your code is. That's your higher self giving you a code so you know what the rods are doing. Once you get your code, don't ever change it. Don't change it. Don't mess with it. Some expert may have a crossing for yes, open for no. Don't change yours, because someday you're going to have to down something that's critical, and you won't be able to know what yes and no is. You'll get confused. So don't ever change it. Just get your code and keep it. That's yeah.
Another question. If the
Mhm.
labyrinth attracts the water, and water, as you described water domes as pushing the land up from the surrounding grade, would a labyrinth after time elevate?
Probably not in our lifetime, because the water that the earth brings to your labyrinth is just underground water. She doesn't need to have the power of like a 500 gallon a minute water spout. She doesn't need to do that. She just needs water. So she'll take water from your well, which is a vein, and just have it circulate underneath your labyrinth and then drain off. So she's not making the same kind of dome that you would get that makes a mountain.
Another
And
question.
mhm.
Do you know do you know of any sources of information about asking trees their names?
No, you just go ask them. You know, you can ask a dog if you get a new puppy. You can ask it what it wants to be called, and you'll hear a name. You can ask your gnomes what their names are. Everybody's got at least two gnomes that came in with you when you were born. So sit quiet sometime and say, okay, I know I've got two gnomes. So what's the guy's name? And the name will come into your head. That's his name. That's what he wants to be called. Now, he may have one of those long, complicated names like that tree did, but it's how do you want to be called? What do you want me to call you? And I've got Leaf and Sasha. So, you know, you may have any kind of name, but just ask. Let yourself accept whatever you hear, and that will be the name.
Okay. Can we move water if the water is in an undesirable location? And then
Yes.
someone else is saying gnomes? Question mark,
Yeah.
question mark.
Krishna, okay. Gnomes are one of the elementals. Yes, you can ask the water to move. Water, like everything else on the planet, actually wants to play, and it doesn't want to harm anything else. They all have their own systems. So if water is runoff or water is coming under your house, just contact it, ask if it's willing and able, to change its direction so that it goes around the house rather than under it. Or if you've got a sulfur vein, you've got two or three veins coming into your well, one of them's carrying sulfur or tastes terrible, ask that sulfur vein if it's willing to change its course so that it does not feed your well. If you get a yes, ask if it needs help. If it says yes, call in the high beings. I say, Mother, Father, God, thank you for hearing me. I request that you come to this water vein and assist it in moving its course such that it no longer runs through and influences the water in the basement of this house, so that it can go around the house and go back into its normal channel. I ask that you do this with the greatest compassion of the divine plan. And I ask
I'm
that
here. I'm just
now,
listening to the end of the program because I missed the beginning of it.
It's worked you already. Okay, that's fine.
Uh-oh.
so did you hear the end of that? I didn't finish that.
Why don't you repeat it? I muted that caller.
Okay, so what you do is you contact the highest beings. I say Mother, Father, God, just because it's generic. I could call Buddha, I could call Jesus, I could call Mary. I just do Mother, Father, God. Thank you for hearing me. I request that. So you can ask for anything. You can ask that the high beings help the water vein move around the house. You can ask that the energy line be helped to change its vibration to be beneficial for human beings. Anything that you want to ask for, you can ask that. And that I ask that this be done with the greatest compassion of the divine plan. And I ask that it be done now. And I give great thanks that it be so. And that's my prayer. That's my request. And that takes care of it. Yeah.
And one more question here. Is a gnome like a guardian angel?
No, actually, your guardian angel is a slightly less, a higher being, you might say. But the gnome self, what do you call them? The sylph is the like the little fairy. It's the air person. The gnome is the earth elemental. The undime is the water elemental, and the salamander is the fire elemental. So those are the elementals. But everybody is born, when you come onto the earth, you are given two gnomes or earth elemental, because you're an earth being, and they're with you, and they will play with you, they'll do mischief, they will protect you, and they're the densest of the angelic realm. And you've given them permission actually at your birth to interfere on the physical plane. The angels can't unless you ask them to. But if a gnome sees you're about to leave the house and get in an automobile wreck, he'll hide your keys. So you end up leaving a little bit later and you'll miss a horrible accident. So they do things like that. Yeah. But everybody has we all have gnomes, and they're very, very special. Yeah. I tried feeding my gnomes once and they just laughed at me. They don't eat our food. No, they eat our love, though. They really thrive on our love. Just like everything else thrives on our love. Yeah. Any other questions?
Not seeing any more questions here, but maybe you could recite your website and your contact information. I've had it here on the on one of the pages, but if you'd like to recite it, that'd be great.
Yeah. My email is Marty Cain at protonmail, PROTONMAIL.com. That's a wonderful system, actually. It's out of Switzerland, and your emails are scrambled and then unscrambled when they receive them, so they can't get hacked into. So that's a really nice, and you don't get any junky ad from that. My cell phone is 828-545 0023. And my webpage is www.martycain.com. And I haven't changed and upgraded my website in quite a while, but there's a lot of my artwork on it, a lot of labyrinths, and some of my writing, and information on dowsing. So there's a lot on that. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So any other questions?
Nope. The people saying thank you for the talk. I've learned so much. I'm looking forward to your book. This was educational and fun. And then when will Marty do a training?
I'm not good at organizing. So it's just like my book is held up from organizing. But if somebody wants to do a workshop, I will come and do it. You get your friends together and they'll all pay a little bit. It'll pay for my coming, and we'll do a workshop together, either labyrinth or dowsing, either one. Yeah, so if you're interested, contact me and we'll figure out when I'm going to be in your area, or how many people you can handle, and that kind of stuff. We can go over all of that and the cost. So yeah, but I don't organize it. First of all, I traveled so much. This year is weird. I haven't gone anywhere, but usually I'm on the road a lot, and I go to see my sister in Florida, and I go up north to New Hampshire, and I'm back and forth to North Carolina. So I'm on the road a lot, and I'm not here to be able to enroll people or to sign them up or to organize all that stuff. So that's up to the person who hires me to do the workshop. And then I'm happy to do it. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Does that answer that? Call me and we can talk
Looks
about
that
it.
way. Yep. Well, you'll also be at the Southwest Dowsers Conference in October. So you'll
Yes,
be
I'm
teaching a class out there.
trying to figure out how to do it economically. And I just talked to Sandy Mack, and she's offered to hook me up at her place for a few days before, and then we'll share a room. And so I'll make it work somehow. That'll be fun. And I love to see Sandy Mack again too. So that'll be good. Yeah.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to having you there, Marty.
It'll be good. It will be good.
So everyone, you can watch Marty's videos on YouTube and Monkey See, and we've got the information in the chat as to where you can see that. You can also, there's one posted on my website at sherryhope.com. So SHARRYHOPE.com/dowsing. So go ahead, Marty.
No, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and I think Jeanette had something else to say.
Did you want to do a wrap up at this time, or it looked like there was one more question?
See.
Let's answer the question.
Okay, Barry was asking Earth Gnome, Air Angel, and other two question mark. And
Oh, yeah.
Catherine Deputat wants to know, do you experience effects of the current conjunction
Oh,
of
yeah.
planets?
Yeah, I've got to talk a little bit about that, about what's going on currently. The elementals, there are actually 5 elementals. There's the undime, which is water. I can't spell it. I think it's UNDIME, but I'm not sure. So water's undime, fire is salamander, air is sylph, and earth is gnome. And the 5th element is human. And the 5th element that human carry is the word love. Love. Love is the most powerful thing that humans have. And without the human critter, we're like the gnomes. Without us, without the love, the other 4 can't get their job done. So your job, which is really hard, is to love everything. Just love, just love the earth, love the animals, love the critters, talk through your heart to everything. That focused attention with love is the most powerful tool you've got. It's just plain awesome. So if you go away with nothing more than that, that's probably the most important thing I have to say. Is that's it. That's you. You are the fifth element. You are the carrier of love. Okay. So another question?
Well, actually, people, Tenny Komar is asking how to chat, and I was trying to explain to her that you look where there's a little bubble, and it was
Well,
next, and then there's
I,
next little
I
person
can
that says
ask
44.
I can ask a question. Um,
Okay.
I'm really concerned about younger people not taking this art up. What can we do to bring them in?
Just introduce them as young as you can. I was 5 years old. Just any in your relatives, any kids you know, if you have a chance to do it, teach at a school. I taught at a school for dyslexic kids. I've taught at other schools, mostly Steiner type schools. But if you ever have a chance, just do it. If you see, usually when I do a labyrinth, the kids show up almost immediately from nowhere. I don't know where they come from. So anytime you have a chance, teach it. I teach it to most people that I douse for. When I douse a water well, I hand them some rods and get them dowsing. So it's up to us to teach, and it's up to us to take on that job of giving this exquisite possibility to everybody. See, everybody can douse. They already do it. You know, before they ask their dad if they can go to a movie that night, they check out whether he's going to say yes or no. You know, they watch you, they sense you. It's all your own intuition kind of thing. But the rods and the dowsing makes it possible to ask very specific questions about something you don't know the answer to. So, you know, teach them that. Teach them that.
Okay, it sounds like we have a little bit of a marketing problem, but that's something that we all need to work on, because I noticed with the last conference I was in several years ago that most of the people there are a lot older, and there were very few people like in their 30s. And I'm really concerned that this art, it must be passed on. Thank you.
Well, this is why we're having the Southwest Dowser Conference. Please
That's
come.
right. Yeah, it will get passed on if you are not reticent about talking about dowsing. I mean, my sister and I were in the grocery store, and she would douse to see if the lettuce had been nuked, because if it has, she can't eat it. It makes her burp. So we look around, nobody's there. She pulled out the pendulum, and we're dousing the lettuce to see if it's been nuked. And all of a sudden, this woman speaks up and says, "What are you doing?" And we look over there and see her, and and my sister said, "Oh, we're just dowsing to see if if the lettuce has been nuked." And she said, "Really? Where do you get one of those things?" So we taught dowsing in the middle of the grocery store. You know, so
Great.
you can do it. Just show people. It's good fun. Yeah. There was another question I know that I haven't answered, but I don't remember what it was.
Do you experience effects of current
Oh,
conjunction? Yeah, the planets.
yes, one of the things that's happening right now is that we're moving into the fifth dimension. And what that conjunction is doing right now, it's taking away the third dimension. It's just gone. And we're in the fifth dimension, whether we like it or not. We're going to start losing some of the third dimensional markers. We may forget names of streets. We may, you know, that third dimensional stuff. The fifth dimension has form in it. So we're not losing form, but we're losing all of the things that are detrimental, that we don't like. And we're being able to talk more and more with the elementals. They're going to start showing up because in the fifth dimension, you can see them. So these things are going to start happening, and that's what this conjunction is doing. It's like 2,000 years ago. It started a whole new movement on planet Earth. Well, we're moving into the fifth dimension. So, and that's the trigger point. That's the turning point. So know that it's going to get better. Dow's about politics, Dow's about food, Dow's about vaccines, Dow's about everything. Don't take a vaccine without dowsing it to find out if it's safe for you to take it. Don't, just use your dowsing, be powerful. And that's this is the most wonderful tool for this age, for what we're going into, to know which way to turn, to know what job to take, to know who to make friends with, to know all of those things. Is it in the highest good? May I, can I? Is it in the highest good? Don't should. Don't say should I. Don't should on you. That's no fun at all. But is it in the highest good? Use it for that, if nothing else. You don't have to douse for water, but I would say douse vitamins. I do all the time. It takes a second. So check those things out. If a critter shows up, is it friendly? Like that snake. Can I trust it won't bite me? Yes or no? Is it friendly? Yes or no? If it says no, it's not friendly, go out the back door. Don't go out the front door. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's your ability to be in touch with all of life. And it's very, very important now. There's so much false stuff, so much manipulation, so much attempt at keeping us in the third dimension. And they're not going to be able to. We're moving into the fifth. So use your dowsing to make that a safe, easy journey into that fifth dimension. And just love it. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Because world peace is happening. It's already happening. So just keep dowsing. And trust your dowsing in the politics too. You may not want to get the answer you get, but douse it anyway. See what you get. Does that help? Does that kind of wrap it up or not?
Great.
Any more questions?
Thank you very much. I don't see any more questions, and thank you for your wisdom and your time and your knowledge.
Very helpful, Marty. Thank you.
Well, it's been fun. I wish I could have seen you all instead of having this blank page in front of me, but that's okay.
Well, you're the one that said that you had your internet was limited, so that would have potentially shut you off early.
Yeah, well,
So,
it shut me off completely. So anyway, thank you.
well, this is the first time we've done the video. In the past, it was always on the telephone. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this is much improved, Marty.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
Is Sandy Mack still on the call?
I don't know if she was.
Yeah, she was.
She
Okay,
was?
if she's still here, she should make an announcement about the workshop for with Marty.
Well, she's saying that more details to follow. She doesn't have enough information right now. So.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And everyone is saying thank you, and the video is way better. And okay.
It's wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity. I really want everybody to be a powerful dowser. So that's my mission in life. Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
Marty, it's from New Jersey. I love you, miss you. Hope to see you soon.
Hi,
Thanks for tonight.
Angela. So good to see you. Yeah.
Hi, it's Teresa from Tucson Dowsers. Is it okay if I announce our meeting on Saturday, January 2nd at 1:30?
I think so.
I guess
Go ahead.
so.
I'm going to do it anyway. We're having Brenda Wilson, who's an astrologer, and she's going to let us know what we can expect in 2021 and how to position ourselves to take advantage of the energies.
Yep.
So thank you
Put your
all.
information, put it in the chat box for everybody, okay?
Okay, I will do that. Thanks.
Okay, sure. And you can put it on the, have Lisa put it on the ASD website.
All right.
Hi, Marty. This is Jeanette, and I just kind of wanted to do a wrap up. And I just want to say, first of all, you are such a lovely person. I am so glad I got to meet you over these test runs, and your love really carries through. Just when you speak and when the people will see you visually, and hopefully they'll see you visually also at the Southwest Conference. But what I thank you for just breaking down dowsing basically in 3 areas with Dr. Emoto's water crystals, gifts of the sacred sites, and friends. And certainly you dowsing since you were 5, since you've been 5 years old, learning from your grandfather. I think what's important for all of us is when dowsing, is it for the highest good I douse for? Why is it important that we douse? Because we want to know the truth. We want
Yes.
to know the truth. What is good? Each person's truth is different. And it gets in touch to our own person. And as you reminded people, well, we're dowsing already all the time. We're dowsing with our body and L rods. And when you touch the L rods, you are touching that system. And so I want to thank you for reminding us that we are connected to our chakra system. And
Right.
as you said, there's nothing that you can't douse for. You must keep the integrity and keep honest. And we can do that by getting in touch with our heart chakra. And we're connecting with that life force. As you said, everything is alive and intelligent. You showed with Dr. Emoto's crystals, prayers, and dowsing how the thought form can change with a crystal, whether we want to be in a love state or disjointed. There was a water crystal that was shown on the slide that wasn't in pristine condition. So we're
Right.
asking for permission as we douse wells, or we're dowsing something else that is important to us. And it, as you said, it makes a commitment. Just everything's alive in that water. And we're asking the water to make a commitment. We're asking ourselves to make a commitment with accuracy, getting in touch with ourselves. And then you talked about the sacred sites. How cool! Chichen Itza, the fall of the jaguar, there's polluted water, and you're just your lovely self. It's polluted. So your natural self, you just want to say, well, thank you, and I'm sorry. And you blessed that water, and you were gifted by that really great fall of the jaguar photo, which now there were almost 100 people on the call, and more people will be able to see this later. And that's just the response of giving love to the land, just like the Mayan head. And Cornwall, England, apparently, if somebody wants to levitate, they can go to.
No, I don't recommend it because you may end up in the sea. I mean, if you take off, I knew if I had the right people around me and I knew what I was doing, I'd end up in Brittany, France. I would have gone across the English Channel. So those people flew. They actually could use the grid in order to fly. So a lot of this stuff that people talk about, it sounds crazy, but you can douse it. It's accurate. Yeah, and you can experience it. So you got to be real careful what what you attempt to do, because you can get yourself into some mischief. Yeah.
Well,
But
even that Rocky Valley area, the labyrinth carvings
yeah,
that was trained by Merlin, that was amazing.
yeah, yeah,
How you were earthbound with the left labyrinth on the rock, but then on the right you disappear and there's white light and spheres.
yeah, yeah. And the
I've
music was
come to the conclusion through this audio, honey.
Okay, so
I need to
now, now and then you took us to
also
South
want to do a wire
Africa,
dowsing
the
or
gobbler.
having stuff. Any shit at all.
I'm gonna wait for that gentleman to
Oh my
finish
gosh. Who is this dude?
because we can cut him out, I hope, later.
Someone water been easy website.
Please make sure that your phone or your computer is muted. Thank you. So
I muted
go
them.
ahead, Jeanette.
Great, thank you so much. Teamwork makes the dream work. So
Right.
now we have friends, and you were talking about friends being alive, intelligent. That is so amazing. Your lazy squirrel, the raccoons, the black bear, the labyrinth copperhead snake, giving thanks. And
Yep.
what you're showing to us, what was awesome, is that you're telling us to douse from the heart, respect, and love. And we can talk to the elementals. And certainly your life experiences and you sharing is just a gift for all of us. And we are so grateful that you are here as the first person for this video teleconference for the Water Master Dowser teleconference. And thank you so much. There's more we could talk about you, but we want more of you. So we'll hopefully see you very soon. Whether it's someone wants to get in touch with you as an instructor or dowser and at the Southwest Conference. So please visit martycain.com and you can reach her on her mobile 828-545-0023. And thank you. We love you all, Marty and Sherry Hope and Susan Spieler. Thanks for putting this on to help everybody.
Thank you for that nice summary. Yeah.
And thank you, everyone from the Gold Country Dowsers in California, the NorCal Dowsers in Northern California, and the Boston Dowsers in, of course, Boston, Massachusetts, with Susan Spooler. And Susan, I think you have a few last comments to make.
Yep, Flagstaff Dowser Conference, www.dowserssouthwest.com. And we're looking forward to having everyone coming out to that. Our speakers are listed.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for coming. And I hope you enjoyed our first video conference. This is available at the dowsers.org, the ASD website, and to be supportive of these talks and videos, please join the American Society of Dowsers at dowsers.org. Any further announcements? Jeanette, when's your next meeting?
Okay, so our next meeting is going to be on January 23rd, and we invite the other dowsers as well. And we will be Cynthia Sue Larson. It will be at Saturday, the January 23rd at 1:30, and I will have details at the first week in January of what she'll be speaking about. But it should be very exciting. She's an awesome speaker.
Great. Let's see. And the next meeting that we're going to have is going to be the third Monday, as usual, the third Monday of the month. So the third Monday in January. And guess what? I forgot to look up what's the third Monday. And anybody got a calendar handy?
Yeah, it's the 18th.
18th. Thank you. So the 18th of January. And we're going to be doing a tribute to Ed Stillman, who passed away on December 5th. And a very sad news. He was my co-host for 3 years on the Water Dowsers conference call. He was very active in ASD and for about 20 years ran the dowsing school down in the Southwest, and has also helped out with the West Coast Conference Dowsing School, and just has been a fabulous dowser. We have 3 talks by him that are recorded and are on the ASD website. So when you go on there, there's a wealth of information and some great talks to listen to. So you go to the member section, and you will go to Water Dowsers Mastermind Conference Calls, and you'll see the list of talks that are available, and each one of them is excellent. So thank you, everyone, for coming. I appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.